everyone. Thanks for joining us on College Confidence. We have an amazing guest, Sarah Cowart with SideLine Confessions. Sarah, you are an expert in supporting teens who are student athletes and their families. I need all of our families to get to know who you are. So thank you so much for spending some time with us today. I would just love to know, how do you help student athletes?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and just for allowing me to chat with you and share about what I do. And, after spending over 10 years in college athletics, working one-on-one with student athletes and their parents through the academic side of things, I realized that there was a gap that we really needed to bridge, and it all was dealing around the initial eligibility process. How do you become academically eligible to play sports? Because we know that all of these students have these amazing athletic abilities and want to play sports in college, but they also have to be academically eligible and academically ready. So what does that look like? And so I help parents navigate all of the ins and outs of those rules and regulations that come with the NCAA.
I feel like that's kind of like, the denial of many of our families. So when I work with, families who say, oh my gosh, my kid is so good. I have I've been in the coach soccer world for so long, been a recreational soccer coach. We're talking about U12. We're talking about 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds. And the parents are already on this agenda of talent, talent, talent. I want my kid to be really good in this sport. And then when we work with them in high school years, they're still focusing on just talent, thinking this is the bread and butter. And you kind of hit it twofold. Not only academically eligible, but academically ready, which is why I'm so attracted to how you guide students. So can you just take some time to dissect what is the difference between the two?
Yeah. So there's the one piece of it is that the NCAA outlines exactly what students need to do. What do they need to have as far as their core courses? What is their GPA? What is their ACT or SAT scores to become what the NCAA calls an academic qualifier? That's like that one piece. But then the other piece of what I do is really revolved around the academic coaching side of things. What are some of those skills that maybe students have missed along the way from an executive functioning place? So like, do we need to dive deep into time management? Do we need to look at study strategies? How are our test taking skills? There are all of these things that really marry together when we're moving forward of being a collegiate student athlete, because they are going to have so many things on their plate. We want to make sure they're academically ready to go to the institution they're going to play at and do that very well, because it is not just about what happens on the field. I have said it time and time again to my student athletes, if you can get everything done in the classroom, you can turn in that paper on time, you're not worried about it. When you head on the field, when you go into the weight room, you are 100% focused on that task, which means you become a better athlete all around by taking care of all of these things.
And I just think that there's just not enough conversation about this in terms of, I think the heavy word is recruitment. And the same on my end is get through the gates of admissions, get through the gates of recruitment, and then, we can do a relief. And that's not what you or I are about. It's, well, what happens afterwards? How do they continue to succeed as a student athlete? And you incorporating and integrating those skill sets, hugely important. I also value that you come from the college side. So you've seen the aftermath. You've seen the students that were focused so much on the discipline of their sport, but then I don't know if you helped those students falling through the academic cracks. Is that a yes?
Yes. So, one of my roles is I worked one-on-one with our student athletes. So I was there as part of their academic plan and their academic support and the everyday life that they experience while on a college campus. So, part of their journey would be coming to see me, whether it was once a week, once a month, every other week. And we would lay out of like, what does that academic plan look like for them? What do we need to instill in them? Do we need to incorporate some tutoring sessions? Do we need to really work through a time management block? What are those things to ensure that they truly are being the best person? This stems so far beyond just being really, really great in the classroom and really, really great in their athletic arena, but truly thinking beyond just the 4 to 5 years that they're spending at their collegiate institution.
Wow. And then you've hit another, like, just, a comprehensive word, identity.
Yep.
So, and you just said the whole person. How are you a whole person? Is your identity fully just on the athlete side? I have to ask, in terms of the biggest challenge now, focusing on the high schoolers, when sports have been taken away with COVID, or maybe what do you see as the biggest challenge right now with our
Yeah,
athletes?
it's the conversation is really coming as what's going to happen. What
Mm,
does this look like? How do we fill in the gaps? Is the recruiting process still the same? Are coaches going to see who I am as a player? And that's really attached to their athletic ability. But when coaches are recruiting players and when coaches are looking for people to add into their team, they're not just looking at that talent. They're looking for that whole person. Is that student athlete? Because remember, student and athlete go together. What about being disciplined? What about being a good teammate? What are some of those personality traits that really come with all of that and that skill set that those students are carrying? And how can we really capitalize on that
mhm.
and work with that, especially in the classroom as well? How are they communicating with their teachers? What does that conversation look like? Because now a lot of students have been doing virtual school.
Right.
What are some of the skills that they've learned through that? How can those be transferable into their athletic arena? And those coaches are having conversations with the students about that. And that's the number one thing that I love to share with parents is, let's teach our kids to have those conversations. Let's teach our kids to talk to their coaches in a way to say, hey, what positions are you recruiting for? What do you look at for when you're recruiting your students? What do you want to see your team become? How can
Mm,
I contribute to your team?
wow.
These are all questions that are really far beyond just like how many goals can I score?
Mhm.
How many points can I earn? These are all things that really and truly show the coaches that it's more of an investment as a teammate.
And what a skill set lifelong. And I think there's two kind of sides to this. There's a lot of adults that say, you know what, my teen, he or she's adulting right now. He or she will figure it out. There's a coach contact. You'll figure it out. Just contact the coaches. And then you leave the teen hanging. And gosh, they so need the building blocks or the scaffolding of, well, what do I do when I finally get a call with the coach? What are the questions I should be asking it? And why would I ask those questions? What a great moment to showcase the value of networking, we'll call it, or just connecting, um, and the purposefulness of having this connection for your own benefit as a teenager, so they can actually experience the benefit, not like, oh, the coaches will start to look at you, but that you truly have this reciprocal nature of understanding. I mean, the questions that you just shared, Sarah, are just like mind blowing. It shouldn't be, but they are. And
Well,
teens can't come up with it by themselves.
they cannot, and that's part of the thing is having these conversations with our students and saying, hey, why don't you ask it in this way? And
Mm,
that's something
mhm.
too of saying when you write the email to your teacher or your professor, put it in these words. Show them that you care, and here's what we want to the conversation we want to have. Because here's the bottom line is these coaches are all connected. They know each other from either playing with, on the same teams or having
True.
coached with one another. So they're very well connected. And it may be where that student is not a right fit for their institution, but that coach knows so many other coaches. They may immediately hang up the phone with that student and go, wow, I need to help this student find place to play. And they're going to pick up the phone and call someone and say, you need to talk to the student. I know you're looking for this position, or I know you're looking to fill a gap in your team, and you've got to have the student athlete. And that's where we really want. Again, you mentioned that word networking, and this is all part of that journey. Is
Yeah.
saying how do we have these conversations and really turn the tables in this process.
That's amazing. And I think too, in this process or the experience for this young person, identity is expanded. I'm not just good at scoring goals, but I'm contributing to this team in a bigger way. Or maybe perhaps through these discussions, I'm discovering something more about myself and my identity and purpose other than just the sport itself. This is why working with you is so fantastic. Um, let's shift over to the other side, the ones that love them most, the parents and caregivers. We are raising our athletes. We want to do the best that we possibly can. We think it's just all talent, and I'm sure that's significant. What can parents and caregivers do to support student athletes the best?
The biggest thing is to be there for them, to
Mm,
really and truly cheer them on, because our students are experiencing so much anxiety and stress right now. In true transparency, our students don't know what is next,
mhm,
because personally, we don't know what is next right now. And so as parents, we need to be in full support of them. And we need to show, yes, we're going to support you in this, but we also need to provide a roadmap for them. Because if not, our teens are out there, they are trying to search for the answers as well. So if we can guide them to that and provide and say, listen, I have found this. If you can go and fill out this form, and so we're giving them part A to the story, and the student completes the part B, then they still have a purpose in that.
mm.
But we are giving them just that first step. And then that helps them kind of learn some of that autonomy to say, okay, now I'm invested in the process.
Right, right. And so now, during, our COVID days, the pandemic, where, some students are finding ways to actually continue on their training. Um, are there any examples that you can share of if they don't have the sport currently, that they're doing something else? Maybe it's the plan B or the plan A in reverse. What are some things that you see your student athletes doing right now if they're not playing their sport?
Yeah, and I think a lot of times they are still just, whatever they can do to practice at home, whether it's like some individualized training techniques, whether it's individualized training, you know, things they can do, even if it's a team sport. There are
Mhm.
still things they can do to keep up with their skills and their techniques from a recruiting standpoint, but then also not putting their academic journey on the back burner. Because
Mhm.
a lot of times we think, well, we're not playing, so we don't need to continue on this other thing, but they're still equally as important.
Right.
And so making sure that, we're still staying up on our academics, but utilizing all of the other things that are out there for coaches' contacts forms, being in communication with them, whether it's via messages on Twitter or Instagram or anything like that, to still keeping those doors open and having the conversations, but then also still staying up some of those trainings as well.
That's so cool. Well, you just opened just a little door, and to me, it feels like a floodgates of, okay, we just need Sarah. So for the families who are raising student athletes, or if you're a student athlete yourself and you just want more guidance from Sarah, like Sarah, how do they reach out to you? What can you provide for them?
Yeah. So a couple of different ways. If they want to just reach out to me directly, they can email me at hello@sidelineconfessions.com.
Mhm.
It's probably the easiest way to get to me. I am embarrassingly easy to find on social media, and Instagram at Sideline Confessions is the Instagram handle. And then we're also over on Facebook at Sideline Confessions Auburn is where people can find. And then we have a great resource. I know that parents are usually looking at like, okay, well, what do I do next?
Mhm.
This all sounds great, but that means I have to sit down and Google something. Well, so there is a free resource that is going to give you an NCAA eligibility roadmap that's literally will say, step one, check.
Oh, love it.
Ninth grade, check. 10th grade, check. Here is what you need to do to make sure that your ducks are in a row. And that's probably the first step that I always say to parents is grab that roadmap, and it will at least get you on that first step of the journey.
Wow. And this roadmap is one that you created. Is that the free
Yes,
guide?
yes. And these are the
Amazing.
things, yeah, these are the things that parents have the most asked questions that I received from parents, whether it was in recruiting meetings of student athletes, I was meeting with parents, or just things throughout the years that I've seen were things that were missed. Because maybe some things I went back and went, oh, you should have done that when you were in 10th grade, and said, no,
Yeah.
this is when you need to do that.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you on behalf of all our families. The other thing that you mentioned to me before we recorded was a possible course coming up.
Yeah, so typically, I'll hear from parents like, well, a checklist is great, but I actually am at the point where I need help. Like, I
Mhm.
need someone to tell me step by step, every step of the way. And so I've taken that one step further to say, okay, we're going to hop online into a course, and I am going to teach you step by step. I'm going to teach you How do you log into the eligibility center? What questions do you ask coaches? What questions do you ask high school counselors? How do you figure out your kid's core course GPA? When do they take the ACT or SAT? How do you know if they've met all of the eligibility rules? And in that course too, we have a private Facebook group so parents can ask questions, and I'll go live in there to help facilitate some of that as well. So that's usually the next step after parents say, this is great, but I just need a little more help. And I totally understand that, because sometimes you need a guide and you need somebody that's going to walk you step by step.
You need a coach.
That's right.
Right?
That is exactly right.
And just the account, we're always looking for accountability partners. So a checklist is great, but someone that needs nudging us to build that momentum. And I love it because I think that your course is quite unique as well, because you're welcoming families. I've done a course with welcoming entire families together to go through this process, walk alongside each other to really keep the process teen-centered. So thank you so much, Sarah. Any other words of wisdom before we go?
Yeah, my biggest word of wisdom that I have for parents, if you have a student athlete that even has a thought of playing college sports, my biggest recommendation is start their freshman year of high school.
Okay.
That is like my biggest recommendation, is to say, like, have the conversation. And if they say maybe, then that's a cue for you to go, okay. Then we're going to plan for it.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Thank you so much.
If they decide not to, that's totally okay. But at least you're being proactive and not reactive.
Yeah, because there's no such thing as, oh, we should have done that last year. Too late, right?
Right.
Yeah. Everyone, we're going to have all of Sarah's information, the link to the guide, the course information, her website, how to contact her on all the social media platforms in the description area. I hope that you guys get to know Sarah the way that I have. Again, thank you, Sarah, so much.
Thank you so much.